When Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster entered the picture, they became most well known for creating Superman. But that wasn't the first thing they did when they moved into the office space. Instead, they introduced a smaller figure and a few bits and pieces of their surrounding narrative that have become the first parts of the foundation to the DC universe. Believe it or not, but Superman wasn't the first superhero. If this is your first time with us, I've found that a lot of modern media is pretty impenetrable to newcomers. My goal is to provide a breakdown and guide to the DC universe in the order of creation, so it isn't quite as overwhelming. If you have a favorite character or story, and it isn't in this video, it's likely to be found in either a previous one or a video coming later down the line. So, to the newbies, welcome, and to the oldies, welcome back. Let's talk about DC Comics. That's right, fellas, our favorite neckbiters have entered the fray of the DC universe. So, we don't know where vampires really got their start in Earth 2, or really until Prime Earth, so we'll touch on that in a second. But what we do know is that they started cropping up here and there starting in the early 1700s, and in the DC Comics publication order, the first vampire appeared as an enemy to Doctor Occult, and we'll get to that confrontation right after we wrap up our intro to vampires. To briefly address the matter, since it's come up in so many forms of media over the years, Vlad Tepes, also known as Bad Vlad the Impaler, was not actually a vampire in DC Comics. Instead, he was an immortal Neanderthal named Vandal Savage who, well, we'll get to him sometime soon, I promise. Anywho, vampires, or going by their traditional name, vampires, are pretty freaking close to the cut and dry versions you'd find in other stories. So real quick, I'll hit on their abilities and whatnot, most of which I'd expect you're probably pretty familiar with. Enhanced senses. If you're trying to hide, they can probably still hear, smell, and probably even see you. Immortality. As long as the bloodsuckers are sucking blood, they'll stay pristine and youthful and oh so pretty. Any scrapes and bruises they get are usually patched up once they've found a new human juice box. They've also got superhuman speed, stamina, and reflexes. Your average vamp probably won't be dodging bullets, but they can sure dodge a blade if they see it coming. Most of them have some level of psychic ability too. Telepathy, hypnosis, it depends on who they are, and of course, who the writer is behind the page. Some of the older Night Stalkers can transform as well, at times into other animals like wolves and bats, or modifying their own humanoid visage to gain claws or wings as required by the situation. On the other side of the coin, though, are the classic weaknesses: light, garlic, stakes, starvation, and any kind of religious symbol, provided the one holding the item has faith and isn't just hurling a Star of David hoping they scare the thing off. Interestingly, once we get into Earth 1, Dracula does exist. Though, again, it isn't Vlad the Impaler. Instead, his real name is Count Romanoff. He continues on in New Earth as well, though he gets dusted after trying to chomp down on Superman, who, if you didn't know, is solar powered. Oops. So I mentioned it up top, but we got an origin story for vampires in Prime Earth. Back when the world was young and Cain had slain Abel, he was banished from the lands upon which he was raised. Also, as an aside, a bunch of mythologies and religions are real in DC, so don't get too twisted up if you aren't on board with the Judeo-Christian history moment. Anyhow, Cain wandered the earth for some time, eventually becoming stranded in a desert. Finding a woman and straddling the brink of death, he took a bite out of her. The woman in question was Lilith, mother of monsters. She survived the encounter, and the two became immortal creatures who would occasionally find new people to feed upon, and on rare instances turn into creatures similar to themselves. Yikes. The date is December 31st, 1899. An unknown location in an unknown city. A cult has kidnapped 2 babies. We know not from where. One of the infants is a boy, the other a girl. The cult, you see, was undergoing a dark ritual to summon Satan himself, or more specifically, Neron, perhaps. Instead, they summoned a less powerful demon named Koth. All the same, Koth was not pleased by the mistake, and effortlessly consumed the souls of the cultists. A mystic named Zator arrived, too late to stop the summoning, but not too late to save the kidnapped children. Koth escaped, and Zator brought the 2 infants to his masters, a mysterious order known only as the Seven. They named the children Doctor Occult and Rose Psychic. Yes, his first name is Doctor. Doc and Rose are trained by the Seven at their secret citadel in India and taught the ways of magic. We never come to learn much about the organization itself. The 7 members of the Seven do change, though it's left unclear if they're replacements to the roster or if the existing mystics simply changed their appearances. In either case, the 2 become adept at sorcery, but Doc is seen by the group as the more capable of the 2, and they succinctly reward him with an item we only ever come to know as the mystic symbol of the Seven. This little stone is quite a handy tool though. Over the years it's been shown capable of exorcising demons, deflecting magic, clairvoyance, and gifting its wielder with telepathy. By the 1920s, their training has concluded, and Rose and he have been instructed to seek out mystic threats and do away with them, but to also keep a watchful eye out for Koth. They arrive in New York City. Doc adopts the normal name of Richard, goes to college, and becomes a doctor of modern science, earning the title the regular way. After that, he becomes a psychic investigator, with Rose as his assistant and secretary. It was the 1930s, so I'll just brush by that little injustice. By 1935, the 2 are pretty slim on business, since most would probably prefer to hire someone saying they're an investigator rather than a psychic investigator. But things pick up following a string of murders. The police are stumped and, frankly, a little scared by the reports. Occult takes one look at the case, determines it to be a vampire, and takes that sucker out post-haste. This blood-siphoning deviant is the first vampire to debut in DC. The people are stunned, at least those who can believe in such things, and Doctor Occult is finally in business. A year later, and the 7 are under attack. It's Koth. Finally, Doctor Occult gets his 3-decade-long vengeance. After that, Doctor Occult went quiet, at least in Earth 2. But when the world was reborn as New Earth, the ghost detective got to see a little more daylight. World War II is underway, and Doctor Occult does his part in it, mostly by being a player among the All-Star Squadron, a gigantic team of Golden Age heroes facing the Nazi threat head-on. He also plays in the sandbox with the Justice Society a little bit too. Around the 1940s, the 7 also receive an interesting vision of the future. Out in space, like a flame in the dark, an alien vessel carries a child, the last vestige of a dying world. They don't know who he is, but they promise to become something great. Roll the clock forward and it's the 90s. Dr. Occult is semi-retired and is teaching some magic ropes to a promising young boy named Tim Hunter. It's here that we find something curious has happened during the Doctor's wilderness years. At some point, at some time, Doctor Occult and Rose Psychic were facing a powerful threat. The specifics of the incident change depending on who's telling the story, so it's a little fuzzy on details. But regardless, one of the 2 of them had suffered a fatal blow and was being cradled by the other as they die. The uninjured member of the pair, in an effort to save their oldest friend, cast a spell that would combine their souls into a singular force. They became bonded, and now Doctor Occult and Rose Psychic may shift forms at will, man or woman, occult, or psychic. They continue to pop up occasionally, doing the classic hero stuff and saving the world from impossible threats on cosmic scales. Once we get to Prime Earth, the good doctor is usually in their female form more than their male. They've become ageless, stopping somewhere in their late 30s or early 40s, and still watching over Tim Hunter, hoping for the best from the young man. So, 2 parts make up the Ghost Detective as they exist today. Now we move on to Rose. A lot of Rose's background is part and parcel with Doctor Occult. Demonic sacrifice, raised by the Seven, leaving for New York, etc. Most of the things unique to Rose, or at least what I'd like to draw more attention to, comes from the Prime Earth continuity. So, biggest of all, let's talk about the body switching. Personally, I feel like Rose/Doc's interchanging appearance can be pretty effectively compared to gender fluidity. Stick with me on this. They're most often Rose, but sometimes they're Doc. It's the same soul, the same person now, same heart, memories, the whole kit and caboodle. But sometimes they wake up and just feel more like a Doc than they do a Rose, so they're Doctor Occult that day, or maybe not even for the whole day. It might not be intentional, heck, I might be off the mark here, but I thought it was an analogy worth drawing. But back to their story, Rose, sometime fairly recent to the modern day, decides to move homes to London. Again, they're in semi-retirement, so it's not like they're leaving anything on the table in New York. Once in London, Rose joins The Other Side, an esoteric investigative organization. Think of it like this. If Doctor Occult was a magic private investigator, then The Other Side is a magic police department. Their goal is to investigate and deal with supernatural matters as they appear. From there, Rose has also taken up a full-time mentorship role over Tim Hunter, guiding the boy as best they can into becoming a future force for good in the realms of mysticism. Best of luck to them both. And that's where we'll leave our story for now. If you liked the video, give it a like, and if you liked me, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.